Hi again, Mark here from TalkingBass.net. This is the second in the series of lessons on improvisation. Now, if you've not checked out TalkingBass.net yet, then just go check it out. There's a ton of different HD videos over there, and they're all organised into different topics, so just check out the lesson map. Also, subscribe to TalkingBass.net to receive the free scale reference guide. That's an ebook containing every scale that you're ever likely to need in everyday bass playing, okay? So last lesson we looked at how we can get started in improvisation by simply using a single chord tone over a static chord. Now this forces us to think rhythmically and takes away all the decision making that comes from having all the notes of a scale to choose from. This lesson will expand on that principle by limiting the rhythmic side of things and looking at various forms of phrasing while experimenting with different chord tone combinations. So we're going to be improvising over a C major 7 chord to begin with, and the practice tracks are all available over at TalkingBass.net. If you're watching on TalkingBass.net, then just hit the download button just below this video, and if you're watching on YouTube, then follow the link in the information below. There's a set of 12 tracks, all built from a C tonic. So we've got 4 triads, major, minor, augmented and diminished, and there's the 8 7th chords. So if you need any help in understanding any of this chord construction and what these chords are, just check out the series of lessons on music theory that's over at the lesson map. There's several lessons devoted to chord construction. Also, if you don't want to download them all as one bulk download, just go to the tab on TalkingBass.net that says practice tracks. There's a little player in there, and all those tracks are available in there just to play, okay? So because we're going to be starting with the chord of C major 7, we want to quickly go over the notes of the arpeggio. So I'll just play them up here. We've got the note C, the root, E, the 3rd, G, the 5th, and B, the 7th. And when we improvise over this chord, we want to keep in mind the principles that I mentioned last lesson of cadence. So we want to think about the importance of that last note in the phrase. And we also want to bear in mind the flavour of each chord tone, okay? Because that's going to tie in with that. So we can do that by just playing the backing track and then just playing each chord tone in turn and just taking in that, that flavour, okay? So first of all, here's the backing track. And I'm just going to go through each chord tone in turn. So we'll start with the root notes, okay? Okay, so that's the root note. Or I can play up the octave. And just listen to how that sounds over that chord. Now let's move to the 3rd, the E. Hear how that sounds there. Doesn't matter what the rhythm is. On the beat, off the beat, play any rhythm you want. Now we'll go for G, the 5th. And now the 7th. Hear how that 7th's got that sound there. Okay. One thing to listen out for in these chord tones when you're playing this exercise is that the 3rd and the 7th are very much the flavour tones. They've got a lot of the emotive drive in the chord. The root is the home and it's very safe, but it's also quite boring. If you were just to hang around on that note, then it'd get boring quite quickly. The 5th is similar. It's got a little more interest than the root note, but it's still very consonant. The 3rd and the 7th hold a lot more interest. For instance, in a major chord, it's the 3rd interval that gives it that, you know, happy sound, okay? And the 7th is very similar. So if I play a major 7, a lot of that sound there comes from that 7th. Now, if we were to play a chord with a flattened 5th or a sharpened 5th, then that's different. That flat 5 or sharp 5 would then become, you know, very flavoursome. You know, so if we've got, okay, but just the perfect 5th there, very, very consonant. You can hear it just in the actual intervals themselves. Okay, so that's something to listen out for when you're playing through these chords. So the first thing that I'm going to look at is phrasing. And to do this, I'm going to break things right down to the basics in terms of the number of notes in the phrase. So first of all, let's cut it right down to 2 notes. Okay, so each phrase is going to be a simple 2 notes in length. Can't get much more basic than that. So first of all, let's just try a few random 2-note rhythms and just see how they sound over the backing track. And we'll just use a root note of C to begin with, okay? So here's the backing track. And first of all, let's have a look at the, the distance between them. So we could have very short durations and very quick rhythms, okay? So we could have something like this. It's 2 notes. So there on the beat, I could play off the beat there, leading into another one. On the beat. Off the beat. Okay, so now we could have them a little further apart. Longer durations. Even longer. Okay, so they're all 2-note phrases, just with different durations and just, different rhythms themselves, further apart. So now we'll limit ourselves by just picking one of those rhythms and sticking to it. So we'll take a fairly laid back one to start, so it makes it a lot easier for working through different combinations of the chord tones. And then we'll try some others later as we diversify. So to begin with, let's just use this one. Okay, so that's going to be a dotted quarter, 8th note tied across, okay? So, and you can change the duration of the last note as you want. So with the backing track, you'll hear how that sounds. So this is just on the root note. And there I'm letting it go over 2 bars, but we could just have 1 bar, so. Okay, so that's the rhythm that we'll use. So now let's try working through the chord tones one by one with that rhythm, okay? And we'll try it with the backing track. And so we'll start with the root note, and I'm going to play with that root note first, and then we'll try the root note an octave higher. So playing all of these up at the 15th fret here. You can play them anywhere. You can play them down here, but I'm playing up here just to accentuate the melody, just to make it a little bit clearer, okay? So here's the chord. Root note. Now let's try the 3rd. 5th, G. And B, the 7th. Finally, let's try with the root note up the octave there. Okay. So there we had a few musical phrases. Now, I know that they sound a little unexciting because, we're just sticking to 1 note, but it's a start. So now let's branch out a little. Let's start incorporating 2 notes. So what we're going to do is work through all the different combinations of chord tones, and we're going to apply them to that rhythm. Now, I'm not going to use any repetition in here, as you'll see when we go through the combinations, just in case you're wondering why there are no 3, 3rd and a 3rd and a 5th and a 5th, but you'll see what I mean. So we can work through them in a real ordered system by, first of all, starting on the root note and then playing through each chord tone. So we have 1, 3, 1, 5, 1, 7. Okay, so I started on the root note on each one of those, and then just put it together with one of the other chord tones in sequence. So now we can start on the 3rd, and then we just work through the other chord tones. So 3, 1, 3, 5, 3, 7. And as you can see, I'm not using any repetition. That's why there's no 3, 3. Okay. So now we start on the 5th. So we've got 5, 1, 5, 3, 5, 7. So just working through them in order. And now we start from the 7th. So I'm going to use this 7th up here. You can also use the 7th down here, but I'm going to stick within this one single octave for now, just to make things incredibly simple. So there's the 7th, work through them in order: 7, 1, 7, 3, 7, 5. And this exercise is really good for just getting used to different combinations of these notes. You know, because sometimes you might, you know, some of these combinations that I'm using, you might have never played before. We get so used to using certain combinations of notes just in general playing, whether it's used in, you know, in bass lines or in solos, that sometimes these can, you know, you can think, oh, I've never seen that combination before, and you hear it and you think, oh, that's a nice sound, and then you can incorporate it. So we get to see some different, or exhaust the number of different numbers of combinations, but also we get to hear how, you know, landing on a different chord tone there. You know, when I talked about the cadencing before with the last note of a phrase, each one of these, there we've landed on the 3rd, landed on the 5th. So we exhaust all the possibilities. Okay, so I'll work through the backing track here and we'll just play each one once. Okay, so starting with 1, 3. Now 1, 5. Now 1, 7. Okay, now we move to the starting on the 3rd. 3, 1. 3, 5. And 3, 7. Now we move to the to starting on the 5th. 5, 1. Now 5, 3. 5, 7. Now we move to the 7th. So we've got 7, 1. 7, 3. And 7, 5. Okay. So there we've got a little more melodic interest, and each one of those phrases could be used in an improvisation in their own right. So as I've said before, listen to how the last note of each phrase sounds. It's so important. Each of these phrases all start on a different note, but they all sound similar because that final note holds in the mind and it was the final destination of the phrase. It's a little like a journey in a car from one place to another, you know, different ways of getting to, you know, from A to B. The journey might be great and you might see some great things, but the final destination is the main aim and the actual reason for the journey, and it's the same in these phrases. So next, let's try mixing in some other rhythms with those combinations, and we'll try using combinations that finish on a specific note to highlight that particular tone. So first of all, let's just cadence on the root and the 5th. So we'll try to use repetitions of the phrases and try to create longer phrases using repetition, and that'll give us more interest and tension. So here we are again with the chord C major 7. So I'm finishing on the 5th there. There I finished on the root. Okay. Now let's try cadencing on the 3rd and the 7th so we can get used to how they sound in this context. So again. So first of all, just with the 7th there. Another way that we can create a little more melodic interest using these arpeggios and using these two-note phrases is to use sequences of the arpeggios, or sequences through the arpeggios. Now, there's an easy way to do this, or to be introduced to this, and that's to just take a chord tone, any chord tone, so we'll look at the root there, and then we go down to the next one down, so 7th. Okay, so we've got C to B. Then we just move up to the next one, so we go to E, the 3rd, and then just come down the next chord tone. Okay, so we have E to C. Then we move up to the next chord tone, G, so we have G to E. Then up to the next chord tone, B, 7th, down to the 5th. So that gives us, and we can set the, the top octave there to the 7th. And you can extend these infinitely, working through, many, many different octaves. Okay, so that's a little sequence there, and you can play them in reverse, so. Okay, so we don't just have to play them as a stream of them in order. We can actually take them in isolation too. So, okay, so we're still working through that sequence. And what happens when you do this is that you actually create these background lines, so you can hear this ascent through them. So we've got, so there I've worked up to the B. Okay, so it kind of delays the ascent there. So it's a little like working through scales. You get the same kind of effect with little scale sequences, but we're just using the chord tones, okay? So now let's have a listen to how some of those sequences can sound over the backing track. So now let's try moving these principles around a little. So far we've only stuck with C major 7, so now let's try moving to some different chord types. As I mentioned before, you can download a full selection of tracks from TalkingBass.net, and you can also, visit the little tab there, the practice tracks page, where there's an audio player that'll, with all the tracks laid out for you. So just click on the chord that you need, and you'll get about 3 or 4 minutes of each chord, so you can solo to your heart's content. So let's have a look at a C7. So this is the same as a C major 7, but we've got the minor 7th interval at the top, the flat 7, as opposed to that major 7th. So it's C, E, G, B flat. So let's try a few of those 2-note phrase ideas out. We'll just work through some of those chord tones there, applying them to this chord. So every time we play them, instead of the major 7th, we're going to have that minor 7th there. So with the C7, and hear how that chord sounds a little bit different for a start, it's a lot more bluesy. That's the 1-3, 1-5 there, 1-7. Hear how that's got a lot of that, that feeling there. A lot of the sound of the chord. 3-1, 3-5. 3-7 there. Worked up to the octave there. Now start on the 5th. 5-1. It's 5-3. Now 5 flat 7. Now we'll start on the 7th. I'll finish with the octave. Okay. So there we've managed to apply all those combinations that we had for the C major 7 to the C7. And this is a lot better than learning, simple licks or finger patterns, because we're actually just taking a concept and applying it to different chords. And when you do that, you come up with different sounds. Another good thing about this is that we're starting to see chords, we'll see these arpeggios starting from different tones. It's very easy to get into the habit of playing from the root note up, just playing an arpeggio, and just seeing chord tones in that way. But by doing this, we're getting to start from different chord tones and finish on different tones. So you're not always going to be thinking when you first see an arpeggio, 7th to the 5th. For bass players, it often, we always think of the root note. This way, we're starting to see different chord tones, phrases starting on different chord tones and finishing on different chord tones. So now let's move to the C minor 7. So this chord's the same as the C7, it's just that we've got a minor third in there. So we've got 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, which on a C would be C, E flat, G, B flat. And as I've said before, if you need any help with all the chord construction rules, just go look through my chord construction and music theory series over at Talking Bass. So let's try with the C minor 7, see how some of these chord tones sound. It's 1, 3. That's 1, 5. 1 flat 7. And I'll finish with the octave. Okay. Now we'll start on the third. 3, 1. So I'm always, just to make it so that I've got 4 phrases, I'm just heading up to the octave at the end there. So now let's start on the 5th. 5, 3. 5, 7. And to the octave. Now starting on the 7th. That's 7, 3. Now 7, 5. And 7, 1. Okay. So I won't work through every chord just for the sake of time, but we'll just try one more. We'll try C minor 7 flat 5 or C half diminished. So this is 1, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7. So C, E flat, G flat, B flat. And as I've mentioned before, there's also the C major 7 sharp 5, C dominant 7 sharp 5 or augmented 7th, C diminished 7, C minor major 7. There's all of those there. And like I say, if you need any help with them, just look through those chord construction videos. So we'll try C minor 7 flat 5 and try going through the chord tone combinations. 1, 3, 1, 5. 1, 7 to the octave. Now we'll start on the flat and third to the 5th, up to the 7th, and up to the octave. Now starting on the 5th. 5, 3, 5, 7, 5, 1. Now starting on the 7th. 7, 3, 7, 5. So just work through those tracks and try to get used to the sound of them. Get used to the sound of the chords and also get used to the sound of the chord tones in melodies over the chords. Don't worry about sticking to, rigidly to the practice tips that I'm giving you. Get as creative as you like. The tips that I'm giving you are to help you get used to the fundamental framework of these chord tones and pretty much inspire you to just get started, because a lot of people just don't know how to get started with playing over a chord. It's just a case of, well, just you know, what do I play? You know, and someone says, oh, use the chord tones or use this scale or whatever. And you'll just be stood there going, no, I don't know what to play. So this is just to inspire you to get started. As soon as you feel confident with these chord tones, you know, branch out. Just start playing whatever you want over there, you know, within reason. And, you know, move up, move down, move around the neck, you know, try different areas, just get creative, you know, and experiment. Next, we just need to try moving to different root notes. So far, we've just stuck to that C tonic up here, but we need to move around a little, otherwise we're just going to get stuck in this one area. Now, don't worry about flying around all over the neck for now. I'll be covering all that soon enough. Just find your root note and stick in that spot for now. You know, even if it's just within that one octave. The minute that you try going too fast is the minute that you're going to get frustrated and you'll probably lose a little bit of motivation. So we'll try a few chords just as an example, and I've included the tracks in the download, but there's obviously way too many chords to cover every chord from every root note. But I have got a full set of tracks that are going to be available to purchase eventually. They're not up there yet, but keep an eye out for those. But I'm going to put out every single chord and combinations of chords as well. So just keep an eye out for that. They'll be in the store, okay? So let's try a D minor 7. Now I'm going to play it up here at the 17th fret. So we've got D, F, A, C. Okay, so that's root, flat 3rd, 5th, flat 7th. And don't worry if you get a little cramped up here, you can play it down here, 10th fret of the E string. Or you can play it down here, 5th fret of the A string. You know, there's several different places to play it on the neck if you have any problems. And actually, it's worth experimenting in those different areas, even if it's only within one octave. So, here's with the backing track, and I'll just try a few of those different combinations. Very laid back, just So now let's try something a little bit different. We'll try B flat, major 7, sharp 5. And I'll be starting here at the B flat on the 13th fret of the A string, and then we have D, which is the major 3rd, F sharp, which is the augmented 5th, and A, the major 7th. Okay? So it's 1, 3, sharp 5, 7. And it's exactly the same as a B flat major 7, it's just that we've got a sharpened 5th. So it's not a complicated chord by any stretch of the imagination, but it does have a fairly spacey sound. Okay, so it's very sci-fi, and you'll hear that even more with the backing track. Ooh! So first of all, I'll just work through the chord tone combinations just to get a feel for this, because it's very different from the other ones, and you might not be used to the sound of these chord tones. So, starting with 1, 3, 1, 5, 1, 7. Now from the 3rd. Now from the 5th. From the 7th. Okay, now I'll just move through a few different combinations just to see how some of the phrases work together. Okay? So just keep messing around with these 2-note phrases and try hearing the notes as you play them. The next lesson, we're going to move on to 3-note phrases, and that should feel a lot more like we're actually creating melodies rather than simple, small, phrase fragments. So as always, check out TalkingBass.net for more HD video lessons on every aspect of bass playing, and subscribe to receive that free scale reference guide. Also like this video if you're watching on YouTube. I release lessons once a week, usually on a Friday. And I also give Skype lessons, so if you're interested in any of those, just drop me an email. Okay, see you later.